I must confess, I really regret the loss of my teddy, and I've tried to replace him a few times, and it's not quite the same thing. And it's like, when I think about it seriously, it's like losing a sort of a part of my childhood. And every so often I realize other little parts get sort of abandoned or lost in transit. And it you aren't necessarily reduced, but there's that link with the past that's gone. I remember I had a whole chest of photographs from my childhood, and I left them with a friend while I was travelling abroad. And when I came back, I was told that there'd been a flood and my chest had been destroyed. And my heart sinks a little because that's all the link with my past gone. And then I think, well, it's a new beginning. It's you're standing under the oak tree of life, and you're thinking, yeah, let's snail forward, let's crawl forward with a new carapace, like a sort of cockroach, which is making use of a new one of its 13 hearts. But the curious case of the vandalised Paddington comes to mind as well. Not by, but the Paddington, the traveller from darkest Peru, the friend of Marmalade, the icon of British decency, and his crime, sitting a little bit too peacefully on a bench in Newbury, minding his own business, and his punishment ripped in half by two drunk RAF engineers. Now, I think part of the problem is the fact that people who were doing this savagery were working for the RAF, were part of the group of people we trust to defend us, destroying our past. And of course, it's not an attack on a statue. The statue wasn't terribly good. It's an attack on a concept, and a concept is central. It's an attack on our childhood. This was the Ashby bench smashed by some local in an act of an act of vandalism. That was the first one. Then there was the attack on the Paddington estate, and now there's the attack on the bear in Newbury. And there's some. Actually, the attack on the Paddington estate apparently was by the Rysida ransomware group, which apparently is Russian, as if the Kremlin has run out of pipelines and pipelines of oil and must now go after anthropomorphic bears in duffel coats. But these aren't isolated acts. These are skirmishes in a broader cultural conflict, one that pits cynicism against sweetness, cruelty against kindness, and vandalism against values, and sort of the harsh barbarity of life against nostalgia. And the district judge, Sam Guzzi, was mocked in some quarters for waxing lyrical in a magistrate's court, describing Paddington as a symbol of kindness, tolerance, and integration. But he wasn't wrong. Paddington is a moral tale, a story about a refugee who is helped rather than put in a in a migrant hotel. He embraces our tradition of marmalade sandwiches. He arrives in Britain unnamed, unwanted, alone. And what does he find? A nation in the form of the Brown family and their friends willing to give him a name, a home, a chance. Of course, it's a fantasy, but like any fantasy, like any myth, it glosses over the less charitable chapters of our past, and for every statue of Paddington there's a footnote of hypocrisy. The Kinder Transport memorials alongside the memory of Jewish refugees we turned away. We like to believe that we're generous. We like to believe that we help. We like to believe that we fully implement the principles of the 1951 Refugee Convention. But even generosity, as Paddington reminds us, must be practiced, not turned into some sort of fantasy. And that, I think, is what these attacks really strike at. They strike at Paddington represents the best of us, or at least the aspiration of what we want to be. And the bear is quite literally The bear is quite literally who we see ourselves to be, who we want to be. So when drunk engineers rip him off a bench, or cyber criminals hack into his estate, it feels oddly personal. These are not crimes against fiberglass and firewalls, they're assaults on our national identity. And yet, here's the heartwarming thing, we care. We repair the statues, we find the culprits, we wring our hands and write articles we mind. And that perhaps is the point. We may not have quite got round to the thing that Paddington represents, the kindness to the stranger. But that is what we would like to think of ourselves as being. And even that aspiration matters. In an age of irony, to defend sincerity is no small thing. Ben Whishaw, who voices Paddington so well, and he wasn't the first choice, put it beautifully. He says he's full of goodness in a way that's not irritating. And that's the genius. Paddington is kind without being smug. He's gentle but never weak. As Whishaw says, he's something bigger than all of us. And that's why he needs to be defended, not because he's a bear, but because he's an idea. So the statue is now repaired. It looks a bit odd. It's got a white line all the way around it. But let the marmalade drip again into his lap. And if strange potents follow, a comet, a custodian, a coronation, a ransomware threat, let them come. Paddington was thrust into Buckingham Palace for the Queen's Jubilee. And the Queen seems to have embraced the idea. She saw it. Long before, I think, the media and the press, long before the press did. She saw that as long as Paddington sits on our benches, we still believe in something decent. And if that's not worth fighting for, at least guarding in fiberglass or bronze, I don't really know what is.